Head produces a huge variety of different tennis rackets, but on paper, you look at the specs, a lot of them seem pretty similar. It can be hard to decide which might be right for you. So in today's video, we're going to go through Head's entire lineup, analyze their offerings, and categorize them for different player types. So starting with different silos, Head breaks up their different families of rackets into 6 what they call silos: Speed, Boom, Gravity, Radical, Extreme, and Prestige. Head then differentiates the rackets within each silo using various prefixes. From most accessible to least accessible, these are Team L, Team, MPL, MP, Tour, and finally Pro. Head also uses monikers like Elite, Exceed, and PWR, but as of 2025, none of those really fall under their flagship offerings, either the PWR, which are kind of like grandma rackets for a rapidly shrinking player base. Most of those players kind of seem to be moving to pickleball, or they're just using lower quality materials in the case of Exceed or Elite, and that's why they're offered at such a low price. Now, Head does offer tools to help you find which racket is right for you. For this year, they released a new tool. It's the Compass. And it does make some amount of sense. We've got the Radicals for precise spin, the Extreme for powerful spin, the Speed for precise power, the Gravity for precise touch, and the Boom for powerful touch. Interestingly, you will not find the Prestige on this compass, except for I did find this alternate compass, and you can zoom kind of out on this image to find the Prestige line kind of banished to the sidelines. I do find this compass to be quite revealing, and it shows that there is indeed a huge amount of overlap within Head silos. You can see that the Extreme Pro, for example, is almost landing inside the Radical circle, meaning it offers a lot of precise spin. There's also tremendous overlap between the more user-friendly models when it comes to the Boom line and the Gravity line. Now, in my opinion, this exposes something that's frustrated enthusiasts for years. Some Head rackets lack a clear vision. Now, Head might argue this is by design. They want there to be a racket that fits every type of player within each silo so that you can use the racket used by your favorite professional player. The confusing thing about Head's lineup is that they offer so many rackets with very, very similar specs. For example, the Gravity Tour, the Extreme Pro, the Radical MP, the Radical Pro, and the Boom Pro are all 98 square inch rackets with 16 by 19 patterns. That means Head has 5 different rackets that all kind of fit the same corner of the market. And this becomes a problem because average consumers find this racket market to be a bit of a jungle. Densely packed, overwhelming, and kind of all the same. There's a reason you commonly hear unenthusiastic players state loud and proudly, "Rackets don't matter, buy a lesson instead." But if, like me, you believe that on some level rackets do matter, how the heck do you navigate Head's lineup? Well, let's start with the most user-friendly options and move on from there. In general, these rackets are catered more towards casual players. You'll either see them in the hands of complete beginners or like veteran doubles players around the 2.5, 3.0 level. For example, the Speed team's a 105, the Boom team a 102, the Gravity team a 104, the Radical team another 102, and the Extreme team is a 105. Now, speaking of team, I do want to point out that Head makes a Team L, or a Team Light, in the Instinct line, which is a 107. Now, I do quickly want to talk about the Instinct line. The Instinct line was a flagship line for Head years ago, but poor sales and the ultimate replacement of their power line with a new silo called the Boom has turned the Instinct line into a bit of a budget option. There are still decent rackets in the Instinct line, but I wouldn't call it part of Head's flagship offering anymore. The other Team L option that we have is the Boom Team L, which again is a little bit lighter than the Boom Team and also offers a bigger 107 square inch head size. Now, like we said earlier, all of these Team rackets and Team L rackets are essentially catered towards the same type of player. Beginners and generally doubles players Usually they're older with compromised movement, or maybe you have some other physical issue that requires you to use a very forgiving and light frame. Now, if you are an absolute beginner and you're looking at one of these Team or Team L rackets, this might sound like a bit of a cop-out answer, but just get the one that you think either looks cool or is endorsed by your favorite player. At the beginner level, it is kind of true. Rackets don't matter that much. What matters is you're excited to play tennis and you want to hit the courts. And if a cool looking racket or something that's endorsed by your favorite player is going to motivate or inspire you to play more tennis, all the power to you. If you're one of those kind of veteran players, you can generally follow smaller head size, better control, larger head size, more forgiving, lower weight, more maneuverable, higher weight, more stable, more powerful. Moving on to the MPLs, these are generally the same racket as the MP, but in a lower weight. And I mostly recommend these for junior players transitioning out of those smaller, shorter length rackets into their first adult-sized rackets. Usually, by the time you hit NTRP 4.0, these lighter frames are going to be a bit low on power and a bit unstable, so you'll probably want to go for the full mass of like a normal MP model. On to the MPs, this is where things start to get a little bit more confusing. Each of the 6 silos all offer a flagship MP model, but you're not going to catch me trying to recommend the Prestige MP and the Extreme MP to the same player. Now, there is also the Prestige MPL, which plays more like Head's other MPs than the rest of their MPLs. If you look on paper, it's 300 grams, which is generally in the range of the Head MP frames. And then again, from a spec perspective, the Prestige MP, and the Prestiges generally run heavier, plays a little bit more like most of Head's other Pro or Tour models. Now, among the MPs, the most powerful options and most spin-friendly options are going to be the Boom MP and the Extreme MP, and I think this is very well communicated in Head's Compass. Your two kind of medium options are going to be the Gravity MP and the Speed MP. They're 100 square inches with slightly thinner beams for better control when compared to the Extreme and the Boom. And then your most controlled options are going to be the Radical MP, the Prestige MP, and then honorary mention the Prestige MPL. What I find frustrating about all of these MPs is there's very little consistency on what MP actually means from a spec perspective. For example, among all the MPs, there are 4 100 square inch rackets, 198 and 199. Between these, they come in a variety of different weights. 2 of them are 295 grams, 3 of them are 300 grams, and that Prestige MP, that's 310 grams. Weirder still, they also come in different string patterns. 4 of them are 16 by 19s, but then we've got one 16 by 20, and even weirder still, one 18 by 19. And before I make any cross-shopping recommendations amongst these MPs, I'm going to move on to the Pro and Tour models, again because there's vagueness and spec overlap when looking at these model designations. Moving on to the pros, each of the 6 silos offers a pro model, but again, the specs are going to vary wildly depending on which silo you're looking at. For example, there are 2 100 square inch pro models and 4 98 pro models. Among them, weights range. There's one 305 gram option, 2 310 gram option, 2 315 gram options, and even one very heavy 320 gram option. And again, the string patterns are going to vary with 3 16 by 19s and 3 18 by 20s. Finally, we have the Tour moniker, which is only available in certain silos. Generally, it kind of sits between the MP and the Pro. Often they're slightly smaller head sizes than you would expect from the other rackets in the silo. There's the Gravity Tour, which is a 16 by 19, 305 gram, 98 square inch racket. There's the Radical Tour, which is an 18 by 20, 305 gram, 98 square inch racket. And finally, the Prestige Tour, which is a 16 by 19, 315 gram, 95 square inch racket. So how do you choose which head racket is going to be right for your play style, or which should you be cross-shopping? If you're looking for the most amounts of power and spin, I would only consider two, the Extreme MP and the Boom MP. If you want comfort, spin, and forgiveness, then I would be looking at the Prestige MPL and the Gravity MP. If you need kind of all-around playability, something that's pretty well-rounded, I would look in four places: the Radical MP, the Speed MP, the Extreme Pro, and if you'd like something a little bit heavier, the Boom Pro. If your priorities are spin and control, I would look at the Gravity Tour, the Extreme Pro, and the Speed MP. If you're looking for control stability and like a softer feel in a more advanced player's racket, I would be considering the Gravity Pro and the Prestige Pro. And finally, if you need comfort, stability, and firmer feel, again, from more of a player's frame, I'd look at the Speed Pro, the Radical Tour, and the Prestige Tour. So as you can see, there is a ton of overlap between the different silos and the different monikers. I think this is pretty confusing, not only to the customer to have all this overlap between different silos and model designations, but I can't help but feel if Head is going to produce so many models, they must at least sometimes be following the ethos of half-assing two things when I'd rather they just offer less and whole-ass one thing, if you know what I mean. So here's what I would do if I was CEO of Head. And please let me know what you would do with Head's kind of overwhelming and messy lineup if you were the CEO of Head. So first thing is, I think the Prestige line just needs to be cut. I hate to say it because the Prestige line goes back so many years, I think to like the late 80s. It would be really sad to see a heritage line like the Prestige die, but I do think the Prestige name can be repurposed for something a little more interesting. And number two, there just needs to be a general consolidation amongst the silos. I think most consumers really appreciate the three-pronged approach taken by racket manufacturers like Babolat and Yonex. You have the control silo, the Percept, the Strike. You have the power silo, the E-Zone, the Pure Drive, and you have the spin silo, the V-Core, the Pure Arrow. This is very clear to players what the general ethos of each frame is, and then within each family you can offer some variation for different levels of play or different levels of accessibility. Now, looking at Head's current silos, let's just cut half of them. I think there are three that are clearly more valuable than the rest: the Speed, the Gravity, and the Radical. The Speed is their top seller. It's the one that we see in the hands of Grand Slam champions. We see it in Novak Djokovic and Jannik Sinner, of course. The Gravity is their second best seller. It's hugely popular, not only for looking amazing, but it has a great reputation for being a more forgiving control option that's also pretty comfortable. And number three, they're Radical. This, to me, I wouldn't want to kill the heritage of the Radical, again, going back so far, used in the hands of Novak Djokovic early in his career, Andre Agassi, of course, but it goes back to like the 90s, right? So here's what I would do with the lineup. Starting with the Speed, I'd kind of remarket it as the power silo. I know it's not going to be the most powerful offerings in this entire lineup, but I think having a powerful hitter like Sinner at its helm is really going to help market it as a power frame. So I'd keep both the Speed MP and the Speed Pro as they are. I would also move the Gravity Tour 98 into the Speed family and call it the Speed Tour. So we finally have a 98 square inch Speed with a 22mm beam, which is literally what people have been asking for since the beginning of time. Onto the Gravity line, I would increase the weight of the Gravity MP to 300 grams. So now we're establishing some consistency. If it's a Head MP model, it's 300 grams. I think this makes a lot of sense. I would then introduce a Gravity Pro mold, but in a 16x19 pattern at a lower weight of 305 grams and call it the Tour. Now we're establishing consistency amongst the Tour moniker, where they're all head tours are 305 grams. Finally, I would reduce the weight of the Current Gravity Pro 18x20 to 310 grams, again establishing some consistency so that all Pro models are 310 grams. And finally, with the Radical line, I would cut all the current existing Radicals and mostly just replace them with Extremes. I think the Radical makes sense as a spin line, as Radical is just, it sounds spinny to me. That's just me. I think the Radical name is a lot more valuable than the Extreme line. That's the other reason why I'm doing it. So the Extreme MP is now just called the Radical MP. The Extreme Pro is renamed the Radical Tour, so still 305 grams, 98 16x19. And then I would move the Boom Pro, which I think is a pretty solid racket, into the Radical line, leaving it at 310 grams, but changing the string pattern to a 16x20, so it's a little bit more control oriented, as you would expect from your Pro model. And now finally, what do we do with the Prestige name? Because we can't just get rid of it. It's just got too much legacy to fully abandon. Well, Wilson has Pro Labs, right? It's like the retail version of their Pro Stock offerings. I think we do the same thing for Head, especially with such the rich history that Head has in offering very cool and legendary Pro stocks. For example, limited to maybe certain major retailers and online on Head's website, the same way that Wilson does their Pro Labs, we have the Prestige 57, which is like a retail PT 57A. We also have maybe the Prestige ND, which could be like the retail version of Djokovic's PT 346.1. And finally, maybe we have the Prestige GT, which could be like Sinner's GT Speed MP. So that's Head Rackets explained and what I would do to fix Head. The main reason I wanted to make this video, to be honest, is I find Head's silo system and naming convention to be just as confusing as frustrating as you do. If you think I missed something with my restructuring, or I have stupid ideas of what Head should be doing, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think Head should do to make things a little bit more clear to the consumer. And I will leave once you use my affiliate links to Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, Tennis Only, Grapple Snake USA, Restring, Toro line, True Pro. I got Go Sport down there. You got to sign up for Swing Vision. I've been using Swing Vision way more. I think they've really done some great job improving some of the functionality of that app, making it easier to use so you don't have to climb the fence all the time. You could also sign up for our membership page if you want one extra TennCom video per month. You can even access the entire backlog if you just want to get it for 1 month. If you want to follow more of my racket journey, the doubts I have with switching, and my opinions, you can check that out. I do first impressions on there as well. And just thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.